one time about his experiences. And he told me that what he and the others did under the leadership of Tonko Regis, and then he said that, you know, he got in the, and I'd heard about this, I'd heard about Mr. Jesus Barcinas going in a canoe and going out and meeting some U.S. ships. And he said he was part of that. I said, wow, you were part of that. So we went, and he knew the ship, the Wadsworth and the Climber. So he gave me the ship's names, and we went to the archives, and we found the ship's logs, and sure enough, there were his name was there in the ship's log. And all the other men who went out there. And so we had a little ceremony in my office, and when we gave them copies of the ship's log, and all the men who were alive still at the time, who had participated in this, including not just those men who had gone out and met the ships, but those men who had also participated came. And of course amongst them was Tonko Regis, and I had a very long and very memorable conversation with him. So in this you will find the heroism of people. The much used term is that when people think about the Chamorro experience during World War II, we think about suffering, and we think about resilience, and we think about more suffering, and then we think about more resilience, and then we hear screaming and hollering, and you know, sometimes it's just way too much. And then once in a while you hear a story about somebody who said, no, we're not going to do this, we're going to take it into our hands. And that's the concept of agency, to prove that people can do something in the midst of some very difficult circumstances. And they did this, and they killed these Japanese soldiers whom they knew. These weren't just nameless Japanese soldiers, they knew them. And one of the Japanese soldiers, as he was in a fetal position, being beaten to death, said to them in Chamorro, why are you doing this to us? So these were people who knew each other. That's when you get into the intricacies of this story, you find out how people felt and how they were motivated, and then how some people just feel strong enough. This is not an aimless, this is not a story without personalities. And this is not a story that, you know, and of course, you know, like any historical account, there's some people are going to be, you know, they're going to say, I heard this historical account, you know, for 50 years, 60 years, it's not the same that I heard. Yeah, well, it isn't. But it is the only account that we have of an eyewitness, a participant, an observer who was the ripe old age of 15. So you can imagine what you were doing when you were 15. And then you think of the consequences and the action and the courage and to some extent the leadership displayed not by Mr. Torres but by others whom he was willing to follow. So this is an amazing story. I salute you, amigo, Atåte. You're doing a wonderful thing, and it's not for yourself. It's not self-aggrandizement. I think, you know, people got to know. People have to know the stories of these men from Merizo, and they don't really know it. They don't understand it in its fullness. But tonight we'll have that rare opportunity, and tonight you'll be able to hopefully purchase 1 or 50 or 100 books.
He suffered probably more than anybody else on Earth. And this is why I undertook this part. I was accused of being egotistical. I wanted to share all the honors and all that. No, that's not it. That's not it. The reason why I wrote the book is to preserve the history of what happened to the people of Merizo, we suffered more than anybody else. 46 of our men and women were killed. And I don't know that anybody went through the suffering that we did. And that was the only reason why I undertook this job of writing the book. And I want to thank everyone who helped, most especially Dr. Beberclaw. He was, I don't know how to express it, but he deserves my thanks once, twice, million times. Now, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do tonight. Read an excerpt from the book. One day before quitting time, we were told that we were to carry ammunition from a depot in Merizo, a locale outside Merizo, to Underwood. Now, Underwood from Merizo is about 25 miles away. As you all know, it is located in the middle of the island. There were about 15 of us, and we started the ammunition carrying trek that same night. Perhaps because I know a little more Japanese than most of my other men, and could act as interpreter, the Japanese fighter chose me as his valet. And all I did was carry the briefcase and some personal belongings. We had just started to climb the hill, winding hills just northeast of Inalahan, when one of the men fell to the ground, clutching his belly and screaming with pain, "Ay na 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 na," which was the expression in Chamorro when one is experiencing severe pain or discomfort. The Pancho looked at him, he looked at me, and then said, "What's the matter? What's the matter with him?" He asked. I shrugged my shoulder and said, "I don't know, Wakaranai." A few moments later, when the Japanese was convinced that the man was indeed in pain and could no longer continue the trek, he said to the man, "Go, go now." In a flash, the man was up and running. At that, the rest of the men could not resist chuckling, for they were convinced that his act was all part of the ruse. He got away so fast that we couldn't even see the whites of his feet, one said. This was the man who had earlier claimed that he was hit in the neck with a machete and by one with whom he was arguing. We shall meet this man. We shall meet this same man for the third and last time later on in our story. I'm not going to show that tonight. You'll have to buy the book. When we reached Atåte, the following day, the group was allowed to return home except that the Taito, who had supervised their trek that night before, had chosen me for his valet and ordered me to stay. That was a bad thing for me. The Japanese had transformed Atåte into an ammunition depot. The munitions were housed in bunkers all around the depot. Some were housed haphazardly on the ground, and the soldiers stationed there were tasked with guarding the depot. The Japanese did not engage in daytime activities, cooking especially, for fear that the smoke would be quickly spotted from the air by the American warplanes, which now had complete control of the skies. It was a nerve-wracking existence for me and for the Japanese, I suppose. The American planes would start their daily attacks on the airfield, and in the process, making it seem that they were attacking us. I need to get out of this place before the Americans bomb it and we all get killed, I told myself. I told the council that when I left my mother 4 days ago, she was ill, and asked if I could be let go to find out how she was. Surprisingly, he readily agreed. He ordered one of his aides to bring him a piece of cloth, on which he wrote in kanji. Now, there are 3 characters in Japanese: katakana, hiragana, and kanji. Kanji is the most complex, and I never did learn one word in kanji. But the officer wrote in kanji a path, it turned out, and later on in a story, I would indicate that it saved my life. I then made a wild dash to the highway that would take me south to my home and family. I had gone but a few hours when he called me back. What now? I thought. Did he change his mind and now wants me to continue living with them in this dangerous place? But he ordered the aide to fill my knapsack with uncooked rice. Take this for your sick mother, and maybe she will get well after eating it, she said. I then made a dash to the highway and started running south toward Georgia, in Milan, and eventually Merizo. But I was not running on the highway, but on the roadside, which was pretty well covered by tall vegetation, and I was hidden from the trigger-happy American flyers. When I came to Georgia, at the place where the Catholic Church is now, I was accosted by 3 armed Japanese who wanted to know what I was doing on the road at that time of the day. As I started to explain, they spied the kanji path pinned to my shirt, and they seemed to calm down after they read it. They then allowed me to continue, but warned that I needed to be careful for, and I'm quoting what they were telling me, the American devil will shoot from the air anything that moves, as if I don't know. All the time I was in office, I kept word that my family and everyone in the village had been murdered by the Japanese to God knows where. A few days before our munitions carrying threat, the Japanese had dismissed us from work well after dark. On our way home to our respective lunches, we met what seemed to be the entire population of the village. When my mother spotted me, she started to hug me, crying that they didn't know whether they were being taken to. She said that they had been preparing to go to bed when they received an order for everyone to assemble at the Japanese headquarters in Merizo. Once there, the villagers were then ordered to start their trek eastward toward Milan. When we met them, they were being herded by armed, brawling Japanese guards. One of them prodded my mother to keep moving when he saw us talking. When I reached home, I found that the sleeping mat, pillows, and sheets were on the floor, all indicating that my family was indeed in bed or were in the process of going to sleep when they received orders by the Japanese compelling them to go to their headquarters in Merizo. In the kitchen, I found some cooked bananas and breakfast, but I had lost my appetite. Started to weep bitterly upon thinking how the Japanese were cruelly treating us, my family and my aged grandmother, both especially. These renewed and intensified hatred and contempt of the Japanese were to serve my sight. Well, during the violent incident that I participated in the day after I had reached the Atåte camp from the forced march to Underwood, and the fear and anxiety that had gripped me throughout my four-day stay there. The forced trek to Imaran that night was aborted by the Japanese as the group neared Inalahan. There were suddenly, my people were suddenly ordered to return around and go home, but be ready to follow the next Japanese orders to work someplace of the enemy's choosing. It was near dawn when I was awakened by my family returning from the god-awful, senseless, and dehumanizing threats imposed on my helpless people by a sadistic enemy. With these thoughts on my mind, my plan after leaving Underwood was to reach Merizo. If I did not find my family there, I was certain to find someone who could tell me where our people were. And so ends my short excerpt from the book. And I thank you all for listening.